from data collection to data processing. It might not be the most exciting one, but is vital to getting your results in the end. So we'll be looking at Flight Data Manager, often also abbreviated as FDM, so just something to get you familiar with. And we're looking at why we have to do this procedure and what are the advantages. So we'll show you how to create projects, import data, and evaluate the geotag quality. Then from there, we go a bit more towards Pix4D and how to combine data from multiple flights. And there are two options which we will look at more closely. Also then how to process larger data sets, what are the most efficient ways to do it. And then maybe a short session about coordinate systems and the hierarchy in Pix4D. Good. So Flight Data Manager, FDM. In emotion free, you find it under post-flight, and it takes you to Flight Data Manager. And in emotion 2, you find it in the connection window, and it's called Flight Data Manager, Process Flight Data. It really didn't change much between the two versions, except for, of course, in emotion free, you have the PPK options, which we touch lightly today, but we don't look at it full length, but this will be a separate webinar. So what would we do with it? We import the BBX, which is the black box file of your drone, of the EB, plus, of course, the images, which are usually stored in the camera, either on the SD card or on an internal memory. We also get some preliminary results. First of all, our images will be geotagged during the process. A Pix4D project can be created if you're working with Pix4D. Then we also get a KML trajectory file, which is nice to display in, for example, Google Earth, and then you get the tags for the images. And of course, the images are also converted and compressed depending on which data format they are taken in. For example, for Albris, we collect the images in a raw format and then need to convert it to a format that Pix4D can work with. That will be JPEG or TIFF. So the advantage really is that we get everything in one folder. All the images, the KML files, P4D files, the flight logs, everything ends up in one folder and helps us really to structure our project. This is important, especially if after a while you throw this all into a storage place and then you end up getting back to it, and then it's vital to re-find all this information. Good. So let's quickly go through Flight Data Manager. I do this now with emotion free. If you have emotion, if you're working on emotion 2 still, that's completely fine. As I said, it didn't change much. So emotion free, open it. You don't need to create a project or so. Just click on post flight, and then you end up here in the Flight Data Manager. It's basically a wizard that takes you through 6 steps, more or less. And it really doesn't take long, so it's worthwhile to do this procedure. In the first step, we basically just create a project folder, and if we answer this question with yes, did you use this computer to fly, the wizard can actually help us to find all the data. So let me further explain this. Did you use this computer to fly? If you say yes, you have the calendar. No, no calendar. Why? So during your flight, eMotion is also recording a flight log on your laptop. This flight log, the eMotion flight log, EFL, is stored in a folder on your computer, and of course this file has a date, so based on that date, the wizard here in eMotion knows on which dates you've done which flights. If you say no, then of course you will have to find all the data by yourself. We see that in the next step. I do the version of saying yes, and you've seen here the 21st of November of last year is marked in yellow and bolded, and if I click on it, I have here a selection of all the flights. So it tells me here that I've been flying with the EP, so an EB plus, and I've done 3 flights, once with 73 images, 55 and 132. I select the one with 132 images. That's it for this part, and now we create our project folder. I call it Academy. There we go. Academy, then create in, so you specify the location. If you don't like the location, feel free to point it to whichever one you would like. Name format, you can choose between having only that project name, the date and the name, or the date, the user and the name, and the preview of your name is just here. Next step. So here it nicely explains you what you need to do. Get ready to read the flight logs, connect your drone or insert the drone SD card to your computer. So with all EBs, you have to connect your drone with the USB cable from the autopilot USB port inside the battery compartment to your laptop with the USB cable. You put a battery inside your drone because you need power on the drone. Your status light will turn white during that procedure. From the camera or the payload that you've been using, you just take the SD card and you insert it into your laptop. Now next. If you have connected your EB, well, I didn't do so now, but if you have connected your EB and you've chosen to go through the calendar, here through the calendar as we did, then it will use the EFL file to find the corresponding BBX file. I now have to do the work by myself and find the BBX file that I need. Desktop, here. There we go. So now this flight log and this EFL file are from the same flight. The EFL file is optional. If you don't have it, it's not a big deal. Having both can improve the results. So we click next, and now it's copying those logs into your project folder that you specified in the first step. There we go. Now, this is new probably to most of you. This step here comes up because emotion-free has seen in the flight log that it is a flight log from EB Plus with an activated PPK RTK license. So technically, I could now post-process my geotags for a better accuracy. Today, we skip this step. I'll show you this in more detail another time. So up here, we just select standalone, geotag your images with low accuracy, means it just uses the GNSS coordinates collected during the flight. This part here is also new. It's a geotag evaluation section, and you can see here how many of your position were recorded with under RTK fixed, standalone, and what then your overall accuracy is. So here at the end we have the sigma error, so the accuracy of your geotags. Now of course it was a standalone flight, so 56 images without any RTK correction. We don't want to do PPK, so it's going to be 100% standalone with an accuracy of 5.6 meters. Let's say for my project this is now good enough. From here, next, importing the images. So either from SD card or from folder or nothing. Can be that you don't want to import any images, maybe it's easier for you to get the BBX file this way and then hand it over to our support team because there was something weird during your flight that you can't really explain. I now just go find my images, which are here. Good. Now I say next. And then it lines up the images with the geo tags. Means the geo tags are written into the metadata of the images. With some payloads, this is absolutely necessary, with others not. As you may know, with the SODA camera, you have, because this is one of our products, we were able to design it that way that the images during the flight are already geotagged. So technically from a SODA camera, you could just take the SD card and import the images and that's it. Don't worry about the BBX or nothing. It is still nice to have everything in one folder and a bit organized, of course. So Flight Data Manager is still not obsolete. With other cameras, Sony VX or G9X, the images are not geotagged. If you would take them into Pix4D without any coordinates, your dataset might still process, but it could be that it processes upside down or not perfectly aligned just because it doesn't know anything about its scale or position. So here we have a good match. Sometimes I get the question, why does this not say 100% here? So what's happening is that the images, like the timestamps of the geotags, are used to match the images, where we are accommodating a bit for the fact that not all cameras are always in the correct time zone. So, and also the GPS time doesn't correspond necessarily to the time zone that you're in. So what it's looking for is just for a series of continuously taken images that correspond to the amount of geotags recorded on the drone log. So if you've been taking a test image on the ground, this might not fit so much into that matching, and then you end up with 98% instead of 100%. If you have any red numbers here, or orange, or they're sort of different colors, most of the time it's the user that didn't choose the right BBX or not the right images, or something went wrong just in the organizational matter. Next. In this case, you just go back and try to find the correct BBX or the right image folder. Good. Then in this step, we're selecting our outputs. Write geotags in image files, create text file with image positions. So this is called the geo-info text file, and you can also select here the columns. So you will have an image lat long or altitude, or image lat long altitude and the errors, the accuracy errors with it. It depends a bit if you want to use this file or not. This is useful, for example, if you have special geoids or coordinate system in your country and you need to adapt these coordinates from EB to your system. You might want to consider to take this geoinfo file, feed it into a conversion software usually provided by the state or some other organization, and convert the geotags there, and then you take them back into Pix4D, for example. I'll show you where you can do so. Then create Pix4D project file. Of course, that's only the case if you are actually working with Pix4D. And then we have here upload images to Pix4D Cloud. This is new, and this works the following way. You have to go into your options first to get this button active, Cloud. And here under Pix4D, use Pix4D Cloud. Activate it, enter your credentials, check, and that's it. you go back into your post-flight, and then you can choose to have your pictures automatically uploaded to Pix4D Cloud. It is advisable to go into your Pix4D login or into your account and change there the settings in terms of which kind of processing template you would like to have them use when you send data to the Pix4D Cloud. We will cover this again a bit more in detail next week, where we'll be talking about EB, SQ, emotion ag, and this whole procedure with uploading data into clouds and so on. We'll cover this there a bit more. Then create KML flight trajectory, and we click next. Now all these results are processed and thrown into your project folder, which you can access now here. Open project folder. This was not available in Emotion 2. This is a bit new, but it's not a big change. In your folder here, you find your images. If you go inside and now right-click on the images, go into the properties, into details, and scroll down, you will find here your geotag information. Otherwise, we have here the KML file, P4D file, GeoInfoText file, EFL, emotion flight log, and the black box file, BPX. Opening the KML file takes us to Google Earth, at least in my case. Depends a bit which software you have your KMLs associated with. And this is really nice if you ever are in the position of having to show someone immediately an output, or trying to sell it, or trying to just show people what you are doing. You can show them here the flight path and how the EB has landed. You click here on the tags and you get a preview of the images. It's really impressive usually to people, that from my experience. Then we have open Pix4D project file. So now we get into the harder part. So this is now the Pix4D project of our Academy project here, and this is where you end up. And we all know the procedure: processing, quick start, and that's it. Of course, always go into processing options and check that the template is chosen right. If you need an overview of the processing templates, just click here on Manage Templates, and then you can select one of those, where on the right hand side here it gives you all the information on the results that you can get. Of course, feel free to create your own by going inside the options here and changing one or the other thing. You can also, if you have a special way to process your data, you can save it also as a template. I can actually maybe show you today this new option in Pix4D. It's the raster DTM. And you can directly now during the processing already create the DTM. Let me just see. Yeah. So the DTM is the digital terrain model. Before, one could only produce a DSM, so a digital surface model. Just you had to do some detours to get a DTM, and now it's directly available. The minimum resolution though of the DTM is 5 times the GSD. There is nothing you can change about this. Good. So once you checked your processing options and templates, you can really go ahead, click start, and then it processes it. So that's not super difficult. Now though, what happens if you had multiple projects? Hi, too many of those. So there are two options. You can create a new project where you make sure that you have all your images for all your, maybe you've done 3 flights, from all those 3 flights go into one folder. This gives you the advantage that all the images are in one folder and you don't need to merge projects and risk that you don't have enough overlap, which is actually the second option here. Merging projects means that you merge Pix4D files where you can already pre-process basically the first step, initial processing, then merge the Pix4D files into one, and then process step 2 and 3. The only thing you have to be very aware there though is that you need enough overlap between the different Pix4D projects. Now, if you've been flying EB and you had one huge mission and you came back during the mission, you changed the battery, send it back out, it would resume the mission where it has left off before. You will have 2 flights. Means you have 2 procedures in Flight Data Manager, means 2 project folders. Now, and 2 Pix4D files. But those 2 Pix4D files, they might not necessarily overlap. So when merging from such kind of a project, this might not turn out well and reduce the accuracy of your project. So I'll show you another way to better deal with this type. So let's look at Pix4D and how to do it there. And we have here the create new project with a new image folder, which means this is very good for projects under 2,000 images. And merging projects is better for projects over 2,000 images. I just show you now why. There we go. So you just open Pix4D, and to create a new project, you click Project, New Project. So from here, you can either go and say next, and then add all your images, right, or the directories. I do now a bit the lazy way. Oh. There we go. I'll take all my 55 images and just add them. So let's say these were 2 flights of twice 25 images or so. And that means I have all my images in one folder. So one day that you try to come back to your Pix4D file and try to do changes to create new results, you don't end up lost because the Pix4D file cannot find your images anymore, or not all of them. It's very important to always keep your images with your Pix4D file, because the Pix4D file is taking reference to the images at all times. It's never going to be separated, even after all the processing. From here you go next. Now this is the images properties editor, where you just see the coordinate system and the camera model and so on. We look at this just after coordinate system. Just leave it all default, finish. So this is now a project. You can go from there. Let's say this is under 2,000 images. Oops. So everything in one folder, all images together, no worries about losing them. Now, From my side, I prefer this way a lot, because even if I have over 2,000 images, I can still do the same. In order to have then a better processing though, it is better to have several Pix4D projects if your image amount is over 2,000 images. It's just otherwise you're basically giving the software too much data, and then this reduces the accuracy of the processing. So what we do in that case is we can split into sub-projects. This option you find under Project, split into sub-projects. You end up with this little questionnaire here, maximum number of images per sub-project. Let's say 15. You specify the suffix part. Say OK. And then it tells you into how many sub-projects it has been split. The nice thing about this option is that it will make sure that you have enough overlap between all the projects. So if we go now into the folder here, yep. So this is our original Pix4D file that we created, and now with splitting into sub-projects, we got all of those. So part 1, 4, 3, and 4. Now I'm opening one of them just to show you how this looks. So this is now part 1 that I opened, and here I could now process just the first step. Only initial processing. I would do the same for part 2, 3, and 4. And this will give me a much better result in the end than having the over 2,000 images processed all together. Once I've done this initial processing for each one, closing this one, discard, I can open a new, I have to open a new project, because now we call it Academy All. Instead of new project, we say project merged from existing projects. Next, add projects. Now it's not looking for images, it's looking for P4D files. Open. Now it's selecting all of those. I click next. And here you say yes, it's just asking you if it wants to keep all those projects. Finish objects, sorry. Voila. And then you have your project together again. Of course, the initial processing would then be green, and then you could go ahead and process step 2 and 3. There will be a tiny step where it does like a re-optimizing, like we know it from using ground control points, where it's just making sure that all the initial type points add up. That's basically from the first step. And then it will do second step and third step. This way, your dataset will be much more accurate. And as I said, I really would always go through sub-projects instead of combining other Pix4D files. You risk that you then have gaps or not enough overlap, and then it processes the data into different blocks, which really degrades the accuracy of your project in the end. And now coordinate systems. So everything that comes out of emotion comes out in WGS84, which is a world geodetic system, so a geographic coordinate system with units in degrees and referring to the geoid EGM96. So calculations of volumes and polygons and surfaces, it's not turning out so well if your unit is in degrees. So what Pix4D does by default is it keeps the datum of WGS84 and it projects your project into the according UTM zone. This is just happening by default if you don't change the coordinate system in Pix4D itself. You see here we have image properties editor, GCP manager, and select output coordinate system, where we can change any of those coordinates. I think choose this one. Okay, so first step, image properties editor. So this is the first place where you could change the image coordinates and therefore also the project coordinates. By default, this will be WGS84 because that's what by default is coming out of emotion. If you would want to change that, you would have to take that geoinfo text file. No, we don't have it here now. So, which comes with your this one here, which gives you the image coordinates and the accuracies, and you would convert all those coordinates to your country's local coordinate system and GeoID, and then you just feed it back here. So you would say geolocation and orientation from file, and then you will have to browse for either text file or CSV file, and of course adjust here which coordinates rows you're gonna have in that file. And then it will associate, of course, these coordinates with the images here, and you will see your new coordinates listed here. So this is a good place to just have a quick look if it's actually displayed what you need. And up here, this coordinate system doesn't adopt automatically. You will have to go in here, click edit, and change the coordinate system to match the one that you're going to import from the file. So then another place would be here, GCP MTP manager. So if you're using ground control points, so measured points in the field, then you will have to first of all adjust here the coordinate system to the coordinate system of your ground control points. So whatever you set as a coordinate system in your measuring station, you will have to adopt it here. You see you don't have many options here, at least it seems. You need to click on advanced coordinate options, and now you can select your coordinate system. You can select from PRG file. PRG file is a projection file. For example, you find it always with a shape file. From list, you just select here the datum and the coordinate system. Or from EPSG code. If you don't know your EPSG code, you find it here on the spatialreference.org. For the vertical coordinate system, by default EGM96, otherwise you could choose one or the other GeoID here. If that's nothing that you can use, you can also enter here the difference that you have from the WGS84 ellipsoid to your GeoID. This is nice if your project is not too big and square. If you have a road project that stretches over a longer distance, then this option might not be ideal because the difference could change over that distance. In that case, the conversion of the geotags themselves and importing them from the file is much better and much more accurate. Once you changed here to ground control point coordinate system, this will also be the coordinate system that your project output or your results will be in. If you don't want that, you can go under project and select output coordinate system. Here you really specify what the coordinate system of your results should be. So either it's going to take over from the ground control points coordinate system, or it will take this one.